Every man, woman, and child, every human being is on a quest for this one thing. Everyone craves it. In everything that they do in life, they are searching for it. They are pressed from within to find this one thing. It's called dominion. I am here to help you win, to point you in the direction so that you can obtain dominion. My job is to help you to win. This is the Transparency to Power podcast. Okay, I have the privilege here with someone. I may as well go ahead and say who she is. People are, you're probably right now, you are looking at the screen, you're saying, look at that, I don't know what, something's going on here. The nose, I mean, something is strange here. And yes, this is my daughter. This is my eldest child, Chasity. And Chasity is a school teacher. So I wanted to bring something that wasn't controversial. I know there's some other things, we have, and it digs in, it's kind of punching you and prodding you and challenging you. We're not doing that right now. We want to highlight something here, which is teaching, the role teachers play in our society. The Bible says, you go to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, it says, train up a child in the way they should go. I was just watching a video. This guy, he's on a treadmill. He's in the military. I mean, this guy is he's cut huge like crazy. He's running on the treadmill full speed, has a little incline on it. He's got a straight bar, or a weight bar. It actually is not a straight bar. Some kind of, I've never seen a workout weight bar like that, but he's got this weight bar and he's got a 45-pound plate, I guess probably on either side, but you can't really see it from the camera angle. And then he has the big ropes. He's doing this while he's on the treadmill. He's running full speed. And then he jumps off, he grabs a dummy, put it over his shoulders. He jumps back on the treadmill and he's running again. And at the bottom, the caption said, I don't work out, I train. I thought that was very powerful. Training is fine-tuning. Working out is, I kind of took from what he was saying, working out is like the rough cut, the rough draft. But when we're talking about children, when you're just giving children instructions and you're just housing them, you're not training them. Teaching and doing that on a constant basis and taking the children through exercises is a critical thing. It's one of the most critical things we can do for children, because the whole point of children having someone being an overseer, being a guardian, their school teachers, is to help mold them into productive citizens in the church. We want to mold them to be productive citizens future for the kingdom of God. But it's so important that we really highlight how important teachers are. So Chasity, thank you for being on, and kind of last minute notice. You take family for granted. So kind of last minute notice, and she said, okay, wait a minute, got to get my hair right. So you got your hair right. Hair looks great. So want to just start a few questions. First, I'm not a school teacher. Of course, I do teach, I preach and all that stuff, but I'm not a school teacher. So I know it wasn't for me. So what inspired you? To teach, want to teach?
All right, so starting off, when I was little, my grandmother, Granny Pat, she would take us to school with her when we didn't have school. And when I tell you I completely kind of nerded out, I loved everything about our classroom, from the desks to the placement to helping her grade her papers and everything. Completely fell in love with it. And then, of course, rewind to, which is crazy, just a few years ago, found out my great aunt was the first African American teacher in Hammond. So it's like clearly,
Hammond, Indiana school system.
yep, in
Just
Hammond.
for those people who are outside, say Hammond where? Hammond in Louisiana. There's a Hammond in Louisiana. No, not Hammond in Louisiana, Indiana.
Hammond, Indiana is now Burns Hicks Elementary School, and such an honor. I actually started my teaching career. I did student teaching there. So I've got some big shoes to fill, but hopefully I will make them both proud.
Yeah, so a lot of inspiration then. So it wasn't like you came into it blind. You have some people growing up, they have a little classroom set up with their dolls, and you do this and you do that, and then they grow up. So it wasn't that, but you had a living color inspiration. So growing up, you mentioned your Granny Pat, and wonderful woman, and I mean amazing in organization and teaching. She later became, God rest her soul now, but she became a college professor. She went and got her doctorate. Brilliant woman. I think she was one of the first people that captivated me as far as her poise, just self-control and her posture. And so absolutely it was easy to be impressed by her. Then seeing her in action, she knew how to handle situations. Even if it was just being quiet and people can see she wasn't stressed out, even though inside she probably wanted to tell people off. But great person to be inspired by. And then you mentioned that was Annie Burns Hicks, Aunt Annie, and amazing. In I believe it was in the early 60s, her dad, along with her, they sued the city of Hammond. She became the first African American school teacher in the city of Hammond, Indiana. They used attorney who was, we don't want to divert and get away from what we were talking about, but real quick, this is Black History Month, and this is a huge point as far as family Black history. They used an attorney who was brand new attorney. He hadn't had a big case yet, and this attorney came in, won the case, sued the city of Hammond. She became the first African American school teacher in the Hammond, Indiana school system. And after that, that person who they used as the attorney became the first African American mayor in the city of Gary, Indiana. The Jackson Fives, Michael Jackson's hometown. Anyway, I just laid some history down, along with laying down the history. Just ask a few more questions. So, how long so far have you been teaching?
Officially, I've been teaching for 2 years. Last year, after I graduated, I taught at the high school I graduated from. Taught Spanish there, and I absolutely love. This year, I'm teaching at the intermediate school, 6th grade science and social studies.
Okay. So between the two so far, which one do you think you like best?
Honestly, Spanish was my jam.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so but you're getting you're making sure you get well rounded. You're
Absolutely.
Getting a little bit of experience here, a little bit of experience there. So so far, do you have anything that you would say is a memorable moment as far as teaching?
Between the 2 years or just this year?
Between the 2 years.
Okay, so last year I've had students tell me that I really made a difference for them, just being there to talk with them when they needed a listening ear, like a non-judgmental, I guess, like, they knew I was a mom. I was going to come at them like, your mom's right, but I still listened to them. I understood their side, what they were feeling and how they were thinking. But also at the same time, I helped them see their mom's point of view or their dad's point of view or whoever.
Right. So still maintaining a moral compass,
Right.
which, that's very important, because in today's time, which is something that, you don't hear a lot of that, as far as people celebrating when educator or a parent stands their ground.
Right.
Now it's celebrated when the parent or the educator, it's kind of like what in politics they call wag the dog, where what should be controlling the body of the dog is not controlling the body, but the tail is controlling the whole dog.
Right.
And so in today's society, people celebrate when the student gets their way, or the child at home gets their way, and the parent goes along, oh, they're such a cool dad, cool mom, oh, that's a cool teacher, you're cool because they get to do whatever they want, even though it could be to their detriment. Today our society celebrates that, so I commend you on that's great, and that's something important to highlight. Yes, you gave audience to what they were saying, and that's, well, growing up with me you better than me on that, right? Of course, all the kids, all four of you all be like, huh, when it comes to me, because I come in and I'm listening long enough to get the facts. That's it, right? And then I'm telling you, no, this is how it is. But that's good that they get audience, but that you're still holding your ground as far as what's right and what's wrong. And we need to have more teachers doing that, just like we just read, as far as training up the child, not letting the child choose which way they want to go, because after all, they're a child. They can't know. And when people want to live vicariously through their children, they let them do whatever, because that's what I always wanted to do, even if it's to the child's detriment. So that's very good that you hold your ground.
I'd rather get some advice from me versus a friend of theirs who
hasn't lived yet.
Exactly.
Has no clue. They feel like they got a good idea, but
right.
they're 12 or they're 16, right along with the person who's having the problem. So as far as I asked you this before, I don't know if you had time or if you kind of pondered it, if you had an angle, but as far as a teaching philosophy, your approach to it, when you look at it, what you're aiming to ultimately accomplish, what do you think teaching, how exactly do you expect teaching to enhance, to impact the young lives that you speak to, that you teach? A teaching philosophy, is there a certain teaching philosophy that you approach the day with?
I come in with the mindset of, first, the kids, as far as their needs being met. If they have something on their mind, they're not going to learn from you if they're worried about home. They're not going to learn from you if they're not so much comfortable with you. Like I come in with a gentle approach, like they know Miss Burns we're going to learn, she's going to teach, and we're going to either be respectful or we're going to have to talk to mom and dad, but with 12-year-olds, it's a little, they're going through their little developmental stages.
Yeah, they're thinking that they're coming into that sense of independence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've got hormones going crazy. They've got girls stuff that I know you don't want to talk about. Sorry, Dad.
Well, yeah, you got that, I'm sure, on both sides.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm
yeah, and
saying the boys don't, but yeah. And then you have them figuring out where they belong. You
so
know,
how do you keep them engaged?
do my best to keep them engaged by. I try to make things interesting and fun. I get a little silly with them, kind of change up my voice a bit when we're doing social studies to kind of make it entertaining. I try to make science as
So you sound like Rosa Parks. You do the whole voice change. I'm not getting up from my seat. my No, go ahead.
I wish my feet were hurt a lot less.
So as far as keeping the kids engaged in the classroom and um, listening, being giving them audience, making sure they understand their point of view matters, even if it's not the right point of view, giving them audience so that they feel like, okay, what I say, it counts for something. Um, that's those seem like great ways to garner respect from the students. Want to ask about technology, because now we're in an age where there are a lot of things being threatened by technology. There are workers that are very secure right now in positions that are not secure positions, because technology it's already there really to replace people. Just reading an article from about San Francisco, it's about robo taxis, and they're talking about how they got them all over town. They have people complaining, they have people protesting, they're setting the orange cones, parking cones on the car, because if the car sees a parking cone, it feels like it thinks there's an obstruction, so it won't move. So this is what they're doing to protest, because it's going to put a lot of people out of work
Oh yeah.
like that. I mean, you can have an autonomous semi truck fleet. I mean, all kinds of jobs that boom like that. Right now, already there's already been a competition. Now it's really no competition as far as the self checkout aisle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're a cashier, you should be trembling in your boots, because technology is not really their friend.
Right.
So now in the teaching world, you have to have, I'm sure, some challenges. First of all, the students, just like the school has technology available to it, the teachers have technology available to them. Um, the students are what are some of the things you're seeing with technology?
Oh boy. So, first off, it can be a tool when used. I mean, when used the right way, correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've had issues on Go Guardian. I'm watching on e-learning day, and one of my students, instead of just reading, like literally all the questions go in order, and they're verbatim. You got the question, you read it, you go to the question on the quiz, and there's the answer. I'm watching. It's a snow day. The kid is copy and pasting the question, going to Google, pasting it into the box, getting the answer. I'm like, so I
So you
locked
can
it.
see when they do that,
Oh yeah,
you can see the movement of where they're taking the information from
absolutely.
and
They're
to.
yep. Only because I'm watching like their screen on Go Guardian, you can see exactly what they're doing in
Right.
real time on their screen.
So now they are not then learning.
Exactly.
They're
They're
just
just
completing a task, but
exactly.
they're not absorbing and ingesting, they're not digesting the information.
Exactly.
So that so what so I mean, what can a school system do about that?
You know what? I'm still learning Go Guardian as a second year teacher. This is actually my first year really using it. In high school. We didn't really have to worry about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, this year I'm trying to figure out certain, if it's on my end, if I can omit certain websites from them being able to utilize, like
So
for
cut Google out.
exactly, because the
Yeah,
information
which
is right in the text. Read it.
yeah, So yeah, that seems easy enough. So okay, so those are some of the negative challenges. What would you say some of the positives are as far as technology in the workplace for teachers? Because you have AI now. I mentioned how AI is a threat. I have been saying on different platforms, I have all kinds of different things going on. And so different platforms other than this one right here, I've talked to people about how for people that are already productive, AI is going to assist them.
Right.
For people who are kind of unproductive, you know, for lack of a better word, maybe lazy. Let's say even not people that are lazy, just people who don't have a skill that's in demand. AI is going to replace them 100%. We already have that information. The research is there. All the data points to it. Everything is in place. There's going to be a huge reset. So people are going to have to retool. But in a classroom environment, have you seen where AI is creating a benefit for teaching yet? Maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's not yet.
So I will say, being my first year, so teaching science and in a class doing science, having a teacher teach you, and then you're just doing the work. That's, I'll say I'm relearning with the kids. It's been a minute since I've been in the sixth grade, right? So I have been given school or magic school AI from my department head, and so it's helped me like put together my little Excels, not Excel, my PowerPoints, to where I can just plug in it takes the whole like turmoil of, not so much turmoil, but in a sense of
it's all the painstaking. So
yeah.
so you have an AI tool, and I mean I just haven't looked for this. I'm old school with that as far as building a PowerPoint.
Me too.
But
I like
there, so you all have an AI that basically all you do is load in the content and it builds the PowerPoint for you.
Absolutely.
Well,
I'll
cool.
show you later.
So
ChatGPT to that.
well, so with that, I want to wrap up with as far as where do you see in the next 5 years? Because I have some ideas of my own. I think that private schools are going to be a big thing. Charter schools are already a big thing right now. It's a huge challenge. Some cities, some public school systems are not liking it so much. I'm not here to talk about if they're better, if they're worse. I think that as far as private schools and home schools, I think that's going to become a huge thing, a huge thing. But that's me. That's my thoughts from the inside looking at it. Where do you see in the next 5 years some things that might be changing? So because it's very important. The main objective is to make sure children get what they need to get. A lot of times I think that school systems are trying to find ways to cut the budget here, save money there, and they're not augmenting, they're not adjusting the budget for the sake of the students. They're adjusting the budget for the sake of somewhere else they want to spend money. But as far as in the next 5 years, have you seen any trends that you've been able to identify that you would be able to say, yeah, watching this happen in the next 5 years, I think this is where we're going to be as a community, as a country, as far as education is concerned. And we have yet to see what's going to happen over the next 4 years, as far as from the political arena. And there are a lot of changes going on there. The attempt, or I guess is on the chopping block, to get rid of the Department of Education, all kinds of different things. If that's going to be good or bad, we'll find out. But with all that, maybe you've heard some chatter in the teacher's lounge, or maybe you just have some ideas of your own. But we're going to wrap it up with this question. what do you think?
Um, quite honestly, I really hope that some of the things that I have been seeing as far as the lack of, as far as our kids' skills, reading skills, I'm really hoping that we figure out what the cause of the lack thereof, for better. I'm sorry, looking for more words. Um, but I don't really hang out in the teachers' lounge, so unfortunately, no chatter. Sorry.
So one thing that I know is, I mean, this is proven, this is documented. There's data that's out there. Screen time is a huge thing as far as development with our children, because it's again, it's proven, the data is there, that looking at your phone, you have the dopamine, the dump actually is not a drip when you have your phone, because you're constantly, you get to think of something and boom, you can find anything that your heart desire, anything, and any strand of information. And so when you set a child in a classroom and you tell them, now the phone isn't going to bring it to you, you have to go and find it, then now they don't have an attention span for that. Whereas when
True.
you didn't have as much, you pick up a phone and you got a monochrome screen, nobody's interested in that, so they gladly go read a book. Right. But as far as with those things being in place, let me ask this: do you think that the school structure like it is, that it can sustain? Because I think you're going to have a lot of homeschooling, and I think you're going to have a lot of people going to private schools, because there are certain cultures that exist in the public school sector that a lot of people are just, you know what, they're fed up with it. Now, there are some students and some parents that are to blame for that. Some of those parents, you know, they jump from school to school to school, and they keep blaming the school, but it's a behavioral issue that their child is having, and they blame the school's curriculum, but it's a culture at home that needs to be fixed. But because of all these different dynamics, the people who are at fault this way or that way, or someone maybe who's not at fault, just trying to get away from the faults, I think you're going to see a lot of homeschooling. I think you're going to see a lot of private schools begin to really get more momentum, as far as seeing more activity in those areas. So with that, I wonder how many teachers have a game plan in mind, and just hoping, for you, that you continue to have that success, and that showing that empathy for students, at the same time holding your ground. But with that, I guess in the next 5 years, maybe not seeing the trends of the overall educational structure, but what do you plan to do? You plan to, you going to go back to Spanish? You're going to stick with the sixth graders, or what do you see yourself doing?
Honestly, I see myself going back to the little ones.
Younger.
Before I was a graduate, college graduate with my bachelor's in elementary education, I ran a daycare. And so those kids that I taught, they're honor roll students now. So it's like I see my value from that. I see where the investment.
So that would be like your great aunt.
Yeah,
that's what she was. She was a kindergarten teacher. She was probably half the family. She was half the family's kindergarten teacher. Even her siblings, a lot of them, she was their teacher. But that, and that is a great place to have impact. To train up the child, because by the time they get to the point where they're in the sixth grade, you can still reach them, you can still mold them, but it's just like that clay, as it sits and it's out in the air, it's exposed, and it gets tougher and tougher on the exterior until it starts getting tougher and tougher toward the core. But the younger you get them, then the more moldable, the more pliable they are. And
Exactly.
so with that, I'm going to say thank you, Chasity Burns, for taking the time to speak with this old guy. And then I'll just say, for you, the audience, I hope that this stirred your thoughts. I hope that this challenged you to start thinking forward, seeing where things are right now, seeing where the landscape is, as far as looking both at the political arena, looking at our country's, our nation's social arena, and now looking at the spiritual. Our obligation as the church, our obligation is to make sure that we are the ones leading as far as educating our children. The world should not be responsible for educating our children. The church should be responsible for us educating our children. We should have schools for them to go to. I have a long list of other things that I know that the church should be leading in, from medicines to banks, just a litany of things across the board. Whatever we use, whatever we benefit from, the kingdom should have it, and the world should be coming to us saying, hey, how can we structure what we have to operate like what you all have? So God bless you all. Teachers, keep teaching. And just want to hats off to you all. And you have a tough job, but you know what? You play such a vital role in our society to make sure that our children are headed toward the right path for personal success. God bless you all. We hope that you took notes and that you enjoyed this